All right, today's problem says, given that the measure of angle 5 is equal to 3x and the measure of angle 7 equals 4x minus 12, use the figure to answer the questions, not drawn to scale. First, we have to look at our figure. In our figure, we can see that line M and line N are parallel to each other because they are marked as parallel. Then we have a transversal. Remember, a transversal is a line that intersects two or more lines. So we have a transversal that intersects lines M and line N. So we are given the measures of angle 5 and angle 7 as expressions. So we need to figure out what is the relationship between angle 5 and angle 7. If we look, we can see that angle 5 and angle 7 are vertical angles because they are across from each other. And that means that they are congruent. So we're going to say that the measure of angle 5 is equal to the measure of angle 7. Now we know from the problem that the measure of angle 5 is equal to 3x. So we have 3x equals 4x minus 12 because 4x minus 12 represents the measure of angle 7. Now we're going to solve this equation for x. So what we're going to do first is subtract 4x from both sides. When we do that, we get negative x is equal to negative 12. But we want to know what positive x is. So remember, negative x, that's like negative 1 times x. So we're going to divide both sides by negative 1, and we get that x is equal to 12. Now that we know x is equal to 12, we can answer the rest of our questions here. So if x equals 12, we need to find the measure of angle 5. Well, the problem tells us that the measure of angle 5 is equal to 3x. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take that expression, and everywhere we see an x, we're going to substitute in a 12 because we know that x is equal to 12. So the measure of angle 5 is equal to 3x, which is equal to 3 times 12, which is 36. So now we know that the measure of angle 5 is 36. If the measure of angle 5 is 36, we know that the measure of angle 7 is also 36. The problem does not directly ask us that, but it's good to mark that on the figure because that's useful information that we can use to find what the problem is actually asking us. So, now that we know that angle 5 and angle 7, they're vertical angles, they're congruent, they are both 36 degrees. Now we need to find the measure of angle 6. Looking at our picture, angle 5 and angle 6 form a linear pair, which means they are supplementary. Remember, supplementary means they add up to 180 degrees. So if we know that the measure of angle 5 is 36 degrees, to find the measure of angle 6, we can just do 180 minus 36. When we do that, we find that the measure of angle 6 is 144 degrees. All right, now number 4 wants us to find the measure of angle 1. Looking at our picture, we can figure out that, hey, angle 1 and angle 7 are alternate exterior angles. They are on opposite sides of our blue transversal, and they are outside the parallel lines. So if the measure of angle 7 is 36 degrees, that means that the measure of angle 1 is also, oops, I don't want to write in yellow there, is also 36 degrees. And lastly, we need to find the measure of angle 3. Well, if we look, there's a couple of different ways we can find that. The first way is that we can say angle 3 and angle 7 are corresponding angles, and corresponding angles are congruent when you have parallel lines cut by a transversal. So that would tell us that angle 3 is 36 degrees. Another way we can find that, angle 3 and angle 6 are same side interior angles, and same side interior angles are supplementary. So if 6 is 144 degrees, angle 3 would have to be 36 degrees so that they add up to 180. Another way to figure it out, angle 3 and angle 5 are alternate interior angles because they are on opposite sides of the blue transversal and inside the yellow lines. And we know that alternate interior angles are congruent. And one more way to figure it out, angle 1 and angle 3 are vertical angles, and going back to what we talked about for vertical angles in the very beginning, we know that they are congruent. So any of those ways will tell you that the measure of angle 3 is 36 degrees.